That night, I thought I was just going for a quiet drive. I never imagined it would become the wildest, most unforgettable ride of my life. When that officer did what he did, I was stunned. But the strange part, I didn't want to stop him. It all began because I needed to get out. There was no real reason for the drive, except that sometimes the silence of my apartment felt too loud. The city had this haunting beauty at night, pavement shining under streetlights, neon signs flickering in and out like they were breathing, and sirens in the distance humming like a lullaby. It felt like the world had emptied out, and maybe that's what I was looking for, to be alone, even just for a little while. I kept the windows down, letting the cool air tangle through my hair and carry away the weight of the day. Work had been a nightmare. Last-minute tasks dumped on me, a flooded inbox, and I hadn't even had time to eat. By the time I got home, I was drained. But lying in bed only meant staring at the ceiling, swamped by thoughts I didn't want to face. I needed air. I needed to disappear for a bit. So I grabbed my keys and left. No destination, no plan, just escape. That's what these late-night drives were about. Pretending, even for a while, that nothing was wrong, that I wasn't drowning. The radio played something low and slow, the kind of song that makes the night feel even lonelier. I turned onto a quiet road, the kind lined with trees and only lit by the rare street lamp, the kind of road you only take if you know it. And I did. I'd driven that road many times before, usually when I wanted to be alone with my thoughts. But that night, I wasn't alone. The sudden flash of red and blue in my rearview mirror yanked me out of my head. My stomach dropped. My hands gripped the wheel. A cop. I quickly ran through everything. I wasn't speeding. I hadn't missed a light. Had I forgotten to signal? Was a tail light out? But I didn't know then that what was coming had nothing to do with a traffic stop. I pulled over, heart pounding, fingers fumbling to turn the radio down as the patrol car rolled up behind me. The door opened. A figure stepped out. The officer was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried himself like someone who didn't need to say much to be heard. His uniform was spotless. His badge caught the streetlight just right. Even in the dimness, I could make out the sharp cut of his jaw, the way his eyes settled on me. Quiet, unreadable, like he already knew something I didn't. I rolled down the window, trying to keep my face calm. "Evening, officer." "License and registration," he said. His voice was low and flat, no warmth, no edge, just control. I nodded, and the pause that followed was thick. Then he said, "Step out of the vehicle." A chill ran through me. Is something wrong, officer?" "Step out of the car." This time, firmer, unshakable. I hesitated for a second, then opened the door and stepped out. The air was colder than I expected, but it didn't settle the unease in my stomach. He came closer, his presence overwhelming, not aggressive, just intense. "Turn around, hands on the car." I froze for a second, then obeyed. Palms flat on the hood, heart thudding. "This is just a routine search," he said, his voice a little quieter now. I gave a small nod, even though I wasn't sure if he was looking for a response. His hands moved to my shoulders. Firm, methodical, not rough. They trailed slowly down my arms, then along my sides, then lower. I became hyper-aware of every single touch. His movements were careful, but as his hands brushed down past my waist, then my thighs, something in me went still. The contact lingered, just long enough for it to feel like something else. I tensed. A sharp breath escaped my lips. It wasn't violent. It wasn't even overt. But it was intentional, and he didn't pull away immediately. Neither did I. The silence that followed was electric, heavy. My heart raced. My skin burned where his hands had been. Then, just as suddenly, he stepped back. "You're clear," he said, his voice softer now, hard to read. But there was something in the way he said it, something buried deep beneath the surface. I turned around slowly, my eyes meeting his. And in that moment, I saw it, a flicker of something unspoken, something dangerous, something neither of us had expected. I thought that was the end of it, but the night was far from over. The world outside was strangely quiet, the kind of stillness that makes every sound feel amplified. My breathing, the buzz of the streetlight, the rustling of trees. The road stretched out endlessly, empty and silent, like we'd stepped into a space where time had paused. It was just the two of us now, and I wasn't sure whether that scared me or thrilled me. Maybe I imagined the hesitation. Maybe I wanted to. I swallowed hard, gripping the edge of my car door, forcing my fingers to stop trembling. But I could still feel it, trying to understand what exactly had just passed between us. "Your job?" I echoed, the disbelief bleeding into my tone. "Your job includes putting your hands where they don't belong?" A long pause. He exhaled through his nose, shifting on his feet, like he was suddenly uncomfortable in his own skin. "You're free to go," he said finally, voice quieter now, almost cautioning. But something inside me refused to let it go. "Why'd you stop me then?" I pressed. "Really?" His gaze sharpened, darkened. "You shouldn't be out here alone this late." It wasn't an answer, not really, but it was something. I stepped closer, testing the limits of this strange electric moment hanging between us. "I think you knew I wasn't a threat," I said, softly. His breathing slowed, just slightly. His fingers twitched near his belt. "I think you stopped me for another reason." My voice dropped lower. "But you don't want to admit that, do you?" A muscle in his jaw ticked. He looked away, for a split second, as if trying to gather himself, then looked back at me, eyes hard, guarded. "You should go home." The finality in his voice sent a chill through me, but I wasn't sure if it was the warning in his words or the part of me that didn't want to leave. I should have. I should have gotten in my car, driven away, and left the moment behind. But I couldn't move. My feet felt glued to the pavement, my mind still replaying every second of that search, the way his hands had lingered, the way his fingers had pressed into my thigh, how his touch burned through denim like fire. I should have hated it, but I didn't. Instead, it left a weight in my chest, a tension that wouldn't leave, an unspoken question still hanging between us. "You don't have to pretend," I said quietly. His eyes flashed with something, anger maybe, or maybe something even more dangerous. "Get in your car." His voice was clipped, low. Then he turned sharply and walked back to his cruiser, his movements stiff, restrained, like he was trying to get away from something. From me, or maybe from himself. I stood there for a moment longer, heart pounding, watching his retreating figure. The way his hands balled into fists at his sides, the tension in his shoulders. He didn't look back. Not once. I finally slipped into the driver's seat, my hands gripping the wheel as I started the engine. But I didn't pull away right away. I watched him through the rearview mirror, his back to me, still standing there like a statue in the dark. Part of me hoped he would turn around, but he didn't. I swallowed hard and eased onto the road, the crunch of gravel under my tires cutting through the quiet.
That everything in my life was about to change. The drive home felt like a blur. My hands clenched the wheel, knuckles white, adrenaline still buzzing in my veins. Every stoplight, every turn, every empty street felt unreal, like I was moving through fog. I had thought the tension between us would fade the second I left, but it followed me, clung to me like a second skin. Every time I blinked, I saw his face, those dark, guarded eyes, that flicker of something behind them, something he was trying hard not to let show. I should forget it, let it go, but I knew I wouldn't. When I got home, I tossed my keys onto the counter and sank onto the couch, running a hand through my hair. The room felt too quiet, too still, like the whole world had stopped, leaving me alone with the weight of what had just happened. I exhaled sharply, trying to shake the tension still coiled in my chest. Why had he stopped me? The question wouldn't let go. It hadn't felt random. It felt personal. I grabbed my phone, scrolling aimlessly, but my thoughts kept circling back. His eyes, his voice, his hands. Without even thinking, my fingers began to search. It didn't take long to find him. Officer Jace Carter, a few public social media accounts, nothing intimate, but his face, undeniable. Strong jawline, those same piercing eyes, that same closed-off expression, even in pictures. He looked like someone who didn't let anyone in. I hesitated, chewing the inside of my cheek. This was a bad idea, but then a new thought hit me. What if I saw him again? Because something inside me whispered, this wasn't over, and I wasn't sure whether that idea scared me or thrilled me. I tried to push it out of my head, but it stayed, lingered. Days passed. I threw myself into work, into my routine, pretending that night had been a strange, fleeting moment. But no matter how hard I tried to bury it, it kept surfacing. And then, just when I thought I might finally shake it off, I saw him again, 2 weeks later, Friday night. I had gone out with friends for drinks, trying to clear my head, but after an hour, I slipped away. The noise, the laughter, too much. I needed air, space, and that's when I saw him, leaning against his patrol car, parked near a dimly lit bar at the edge of the lot. He wasn't watching me, not directly, but I could feel it. The way his fingers flexed at his sides, the way his head tilted, like he was weighing something. He had thoughts in his eyes I couldn't begin to guess. My breath caught. This wasn't a coincidence. That's not an answer.
A muscle jumped in his jaw. Neither of us moved. The night stretched out around us, thick with everything we weren't saying. And before I could stop myself, I took a step closer. Why did you stop me that night? My voice came quieter now. He exhaled slowly, his fists tightening at his sides. I don't know. It was honest, raw, and it caught me off guard. But before I could say anything back, he reached out, just slightly, as if by instinct, then quickly pulled away, as if realizing the mistake mid-motion. Still, I felt it. That pause. That pull. You should go back inside, he murmured, his voice rough like he was fighting something inside himself. I should have listened. It would have been safer, simpler, but I didn't move. Not yet. Not when his expression was twisted with something he didn't want me to see. His brow furrowed, his jaw clenched so tightly it looked painful. Something was breaking inside him, and I needed to know what. "Why do you care?" My voice barely more than a whisper, but laced with challenge. He stiffened. His eyes dropped for just a second and lingered on my lips before snapping away. His breath hitched. His fingers twitched. Fists curling tight like he was physically holding himself back. "I don't." "Liar." I tilted my head, studying him, waiting for the crack in his mask. "You're a terrible liar, officer." His jaw flexed again. Shoulders squared. He looked like a man standing on the edge of something dangerous. "Don't push me," he warned, his voice hoarse, barely controlled. But I wanted to. I needed to. Because whatever existed between us, it was stretching, pulling, tightening until something had to give. And if he wouldn't say it, I was going to make him feel it. I stepped in again. So close, our bodies almost touched. I could feel the heat radiating off him, my chest nearly brushing his. "What are you so afraid of, Jace?" He let out a sharp, shaky breath. His fingers twitched again. Then he snapped. In one swift, jolting movement, his hands grabbed my waist. I barely had time to register it before he shoved me back, my spine hitting the cool metal of his patrol car. I gasped, but the sound vanished the moment his lips crashed into me. Each touch like a flame along my skin. Then lower, he gripped my thighs, lifting me in one swift motion and pressing me harder against the car. I wrapped my legs around his waist, fully pinned, caged between him and cold metal. And this was what I had been craving. The urgency, the desperation, the way he held me like he couldn't breathe without me. He kissed me like I was his last breath, like he would die if he let go. I moaned against his mouth, my fingers tangling in the back of his neck, feeling the contrast between the crisp uniform and the heat of his skin. He broke away from my lips, only to trail fire down my jaw, to my neck. His mouth was hot, open. His teeth grazed the skin just enough to make me gasp. Then he soothed the sting with his tongue, his breathing ragged, uneven. "I hate you," he growled against my skin. I laughed, soft, breathless. "No, you don't." His grip tightened. His forehead dropped to my shoulder. We stood like that for a moment, just breathing. And then, Officer Carter, a voice. We froze. Reality came crashing back in an instant. We turned, breathless, wide-eyed. Another officer stood at the edge of the lot, radio crackling at his side, the sound slicing through the silence like a blade. No one moved. Then Jace did. In one sudden, jarring motion, he dropped me, stepping back as if my touch had scalded him. The heat between us vanished, snatched away by cold night air and the weight of what we'd done. His face, just seconds ago wrecked with need, was blank now, lips parted like he wanted to speak. But he didn't. His jaw locked tight, his whole body stiff with tension. He took another step back, and I felt it, like something inside me cracked, because in that moment, I knew this was going to be a problem. The night air surged between us again, but now it wasn't electric. It was heavy,
unforgiving. My skin still burned where he'd touched me, where he'd kissed me. But now it was as if none of it had ever happened. He'd pushed me away. No, he dropped me. And the look on his face now, cold, controlled, distant, hit harder than anything else. I clenched my fists, tried to steady my breath. I turned to look at the other officer. Older, maybe mid-40s, his expression unreadable but alert. His eyes moved between us, catching every detail. How I was still leaning against the car like I needed support, how Jace stood too far away, but not far enough. He knew, and it pissed me off. "Are you sure?" the other officer pressed, his eyes flicking between us. Looked like something was going on. Jace's shoulders tensed. He was trying to stay calm, to keep everything buried. He was good at it. Probably had years of practice. Me? Not so much. "I was just leaving," I said before Jace could speak, my voice flat, emotionless. If he wanted to pretend, fine. I could play that game too. Jace's head snapped toward me, his eyes flashing with something. Anger, frustration, guilt maybe. But I didn't care. I pushed off the car and walked past him without a glance. My heart was hammering, my skin still alive with everything that had just happened, but I kept my expression cold. He'd given me nothing, so I gave him the same. I yanked open my car door and slid inside, my hands shaking slightly as they gripped the wheel. Through the windshield, I saw him, still standing there, jaw tight, fists clenched. The other officer said something to him. I didn't hear it, didn't want to. I turned the key. The engine roared to life. Then, before I could stop myself, I looked up again, and Jace looked back. Only for a second, but in that second, I saw everything he wasn't saying. The storm behind his eyes, the fear, the want, the regret. But it didn't matter. He had made his choice, so I made mine. I drove away. The drive home was a blur. My hands gripped the wheel too tight. My mind replayed everything. His touch, his kiss, the way it all slipped away the moment reality caught up to us. I should have expected it. Guys like Jace, the ones who wear the badge, who carry duty and control like a second skin, they don't get to have moments like that. They don't get to have me. And maybe that was for the best. Clean cut. Over before it could really begin. So why did it feel like my chest was caving in? I stepped into my apartment, locked the door behind me. Darkness. Silence. It wrapped around me like a blanket I didn't want. I collapsed onto the couch, running a hand through my hair. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't look, didn't want to see if it was him, didn't want to hope. But the universe had other plans, because 5 minutes later, there was a knock at my door. Sharp, urgent. I froze. My mind tried to convince me I was imagining it, that I was just tired. But then it came again. Knock. 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 Louder. I opened my mouth to say something, but he didn't wait. He stepped inside, grabbed my face with both hands, and kissed me. No words, no hesitation, just the heat of his mouth crashing into mine, like he'd been holding back so long it hurt. For a moment, time held its breath. The world went quiet, and it was just us, him and me, heartbeats, breath, skin. He pulled away just an inch, his eyes locked on mine, searching, and I saw it, everything. The fear, the desire, the breaking point. And then he kissed me again, slower this time, deeper, like he was memorizing the way I tasted. I reached for him, my fingers gripping the fabric of his uniform, pulling him closer until there was no space left between us. He held me like he didn't want to let go, and for once, I didn't want him to. He kissed me again, harder this time, deeper, like the hesitation from before had vanished. His hands moved with urgency, his lips leaving trails of heat against my skin, and every touch sent a shiver down my spine. "Don't stop," I whispered, barely knowing if the words made sense, if anything did anymore. My heart pounded, my thoughts blurred. All I knew was him, the way he felt, the way he made me feel. He didn't answer with words, just a low sound from deep in his chest, and then his mouth was back on mine, his body pressed against me so closely I could feel the heat radiating off him. The rest happened in fragments, hands reaching, clothes tugged, the world spinning faster than I could hold on to. We found our way to my room. No words, no explanations. We crossed a line, and we didn't look back. It wasn't a mistake, and it wasn't regret. It was real. Everything we'd held back, the tension, the hunger, the quiet longing, it all came pouring out in one unstoppable wave. By the time my eyes finally drifted shut, my body was aching, my mind was spent, and my heart was still racing. I woke to the sound of slow, steady breaths beside me. Soft morning light filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows on the walls. My body felt heavy, a dull soreness reminding me of every moment from the night before. Jace was still beside me, his arm draped loosely over my waist, his breath warm against my neck. I eased myself away carefully, not wanting to wake him. As I stood, I looked back, and there he was, asleep, peaceful, his features softened in a way I hadn't seen before, like the weight he always carried had been lifted, just for a moment. "Morning," he mumbled, his voice low and rough.
Did we really?
I nodded. Yeah, we did. There was a long pause, the air between us thick again, but this time not with tension, with questions. So many questions.
So, I guess that makes us—
Don't. I cut him off softly, pulling the blanket tighter around myself. I didn't want to hear the label. Not yet. He offered a weak smile, but it didn't reach his eyes.
What? You don't want to admit we crossed a line?
He said with a teasing edge, though something darker lingered beneath his voice. I forced a laugh. "Shut up, Jace," I muttered, tossing a pillow at him. He caught it with ease, and for a moment, he was the Jace I knew. Guarded, but present. "You never struck me as the type," he said quietly, and somehow that stung more than I expected. I didn't respond, because the truth was, I didn't know who I was in that moment. What I wanted, what this all meant.
"Promise me you won't leave me alone,"
he said suddenly. The words landed like a stone in my chest. Soft, but weighty. Sincere. I looked at him. His eyes held something I couldn't quite name.
"What do we do now?"
I asked, the question barely more than a whisper. He held my gaze.
"We figure it out. Together."
And in that moment, I knew we were standing at the edge of something. A cliff, maybe, with no way to turn back. What now? Where do we go from here? How do we move forward, knowing the world outside wouldn't understand? I didn't have answers. I wasn't even sure I wanted them. All I knew was this. We couldn't take it back, even if we wanted to. So let me ask you, if you were in our place,
What would you do? Would you walk away? Or would you keep going down a road that's dangerous, uncertain, but maybe, just maybe, worth the risk? Tell me in the comments, because right now, I'm still too lost to know what to choose.